Automatically, when I got on a plane, the first flight attendant I saw, I'd say, I'm sitting in seat so-and-so. When you get a chance, bring me a cup of coffee, Coke maybe, and a seatbelt extender, because I needed about that much more to be comfortable. Now, I could get some of them fastened, but it was painful. And I don't like pain any more than anybody else does, so I'd ask for these extenders. And one day I was sitting on a plane, had this extender on, minding my own business, reading the paper, and the plane's loading. And these people are getting on, I'm not paying much attention to them, and a couple got on the plane, sat in the two seats directly across the aisle from me. Still hadn't paid them any attention yet, but it didn't take the woman long to get my attention because she was so loud. And her poor husband, I remember his name was Roland, and the reason I remember it so vividly is she must have said it 10 times in like 3 minutes. Rolling this, rolling that, rolling. Anyway, I did what you would have done. I glanced over, and old Roland was a big old boy about my size. He had one end of his seatbelt, and she had the other, and they're trying to get this thing hooked up, and it's just not working. She had the old boy about spinning in his seat. She's going, here, Roland, turn this way, and Roland, turn that way. And Roland, suck it in. Old Roland's trying to suck it in, and it's just not coming together. And I'm about to lean across the aisle and tell them about these extenders, which they were obviously, they weren't aware of. But before I had a chance to say anything, old Roland looks my way, says to his wife, I guess he thought I was deaf, because as close as I was to him, but he says to his wife, well, if he can get his on, I ought to be able to get mine. Well, all sympathy ceased for Roland at that point, and I decided it was time to have a little fun with the old boy, and because I only needed that much, I had a good foot and a half of that extender left over kind of hanging down in my lap. And I waited to just the right moment. When I knew he was looking my way, I reached down, kept reading my paper, reached down, picked up my extra belt and threw it over the arm of the chair so he'd see it. And you could have heard his head snap when he saw I had extra belt. And just the devil got loose in me or something, I don't know. But just to add to this, I reached down and picked it up and twirled it a time or two for added effect. And unbeknownst to me, the flight attendant had been watching every bit of this. And she came over and leaned down across me and set that cup of coffee down or whatever it was, and she whispered to me so Roland couldn't hear. She said, you want to tell him about these extenders? Or do you just want him to bust at about 30,000 feet? And I looked over, and they had gotten Roland's seatbelt fastened, but you couldn't see it. It was up in there somewhere. That thing just totally disappeared. Old Roland had a death grip on his arm of that chair, and veins stuck out. And I said, let him bust, we'll clean him up later. Anyway.